your last chance to get yours at this low price. So don't delay. Duck it up today.
Call 1-800-693-3440 or visit duckback.com. So call 1-800-693-3440 or visit duckback.com now.
Hello, everybody. You're watching Breaking Point on Real America's Voice News. I am David Zere. I've got a great show for you today. I sat down with Trump lawyer John Eastman at the America First Warehouse. We got great questions from the audience. We're going to play that interview for you. And, Rosie O'Donnell's not the only one who left the United States. Remember, Ellen DeGeneres and her wife went to England. Now James Cameron wants to go to New Zealand. Door's open, buddy. Let's go. But stay tuned. We have a great show. Don't go anywhere.
Arizona hired this rabid anti-Trump group called States United Democracy Center. They're the same group that filed the bar complaint against me in California. She hired them to do the prosecution strategy. That's like hiring a fox to do the safety memo for your hen house. It's insane. 2 weeks ago, the Arizona court held that we had met our initial burden of showing that this was a violation of our First Amendment rights and that it was motivated by retaliating against our First Amendment rights. And now the Attorney General has to prove that she didn't have any political bias. Or otherwise the case gets dismissed. And so we're making some headway there, but it's probably 6 months or another year of litigation before we're done.
It's really incredible what's happening. And a recent Washington Post article I was reading a few days ago, prosecutors seeking retribution can be disbarred, trying to again target Trump attorneys. And now a judge recommended disbarment for you in California. Where does that stand?
So we went through the longest 10 weeks and most expensive, over $750,000 bar disciplinary proceeding in history. And it was a farce. It was a kangaroo court, according to reporters that watched it. I'm not putting that in my own words because I'll be in trouble. And the California bar judge, who was still donating to organizations that were doing the lawfare, she was donating while she's a judge to these organizations, and she recommended disbarment. We're now up on appeal that'll be heard in a couple of weeks, and then there'll be another round of appeal and more legal fees up to the California Supreme Court before they decide whether to take that recommendation of disbarment or not.
You're not going to believe this movie. I thought one of made documentaries, and you bring on the opposition, people who normally wouldn't support you, right? Who are coming out in your defense because they see what happened to you. And we'll let the audience decide for themselves. But it's really spectacular. I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. And do you have any message for to take away here?
There's one part of the premiere when President Trump came down that we didn't talk about. My daughter has a brand new baby, and the baby was 3 months old, and she brought him to the premiere. And like every good mother that has a young baby should know, you sit in the back row in case the baby starts acting up. And when we were doing the panel discussion with Rudy and Alan Dershowitz and Mike Flynn and Peter Navarro and others, Trump came into the back of the room and watched, and my daughter noticed him out the back of her eye, and she quick got her camera out, a little selfie with my John Martin grandson and my daughter with President Trump standing right behind him. That's why I do this, for that kid and grandkid.
I have a question for you. Is Cash and Bongino going to be able to make a difference in the FBI?
I think so. When I was at CPAC last week, the biggest round of applause I got, and people said, what can we do about this? And I said 2 words, Cash Patel. I think Cash is going to hold the people that have engaged in this weaponization of our criminal justice system. I think he's going to hold them accountable. I think if the investigation warrants, and I believe it will, I think we've got a nationwide conspiracy to violate our constitutional rights going here. He's going to wrap up that with a bow and hand it over to Pam Bondi to criminally prosecute these people.
Yeah, and Cash is a friend to the warehouse. Very exciting. A Long Island native. Bongino was born right here in Smithtown. We're very excited about that. What's your overall view of DOJ under Bondi for the next 4 years? And are any of these changes going to be, are they going to be able to make permanent changes so Catholic churches are outside of abortion clinics for peacefully protesting? The average Joe won't be persecuted for their feelings about the election. Do you see any permanent changes coming?
I see some permanent changes if they follow through and hold the people that have engaged in this lawfare for the last 4 years accountable. If they don't do that, then we're just in a holding pattern for 4 years. And when they're back in power 4 or 8 years down the road, they'll do it again. But if some of these people go to prison, I think that'll be a very strong message warning people in the future never to do anything like this again.
All right. Again, Dr. John Eastman, everybody. So what does everybody think about the Eastman dilemma that you just watched? Unbelievable, right? So we have a nice crowd here tonight.
We do.
John. And I think that they want to ask you some questions. So I'm going to take some questions from the audience here. We got great people. And anybody wants to ask a question, just line up. And
we should make clear, unlike Biden and Kamala Harris, nobody's written out these questions ahead of time for us.
No. And you weren't provided with the questions in advance either, right? So, all right. Who do we have here?
Hi, my name is Stephanie Liggio. I'm from the Bronx. John, I'd like to know, has former Vice President Pence, has he ever reached out to you regarding this issue, your legal lawfare issues, since he was the one you were consulting about what actions he could take on January 6th? Thank you.
Yeah, great question.
Stephanie.
Not only has he not reached out to me, but when he has given public speeches, he's lied about what occurred in that meeting on January 4th. He said he made adamantly clear that he had no authority and wouldn't exercise that. That never happened. As I say in the movie, that's just blatantly false. And, you know, we've learned enough about Mike Pence since then to know he has no spine. Do you really think he confronted President Trump in the Oval Office in person and said, "I'm not doing what you asked"? It's just not possible.
Wow, great question. Great question. And we have Phil. Phil Giacino. How are you?
Good. Mr. Eastman, that was a very well-made documentary. The question is this. You were admitted in 2020 in California, correct?
Yes.
Yet you brought actions in, let's say, Pennsylvania, Michigan. Did you have to be admitted there ad hoc vice? And with respect to the states where you talk about Pennsylvania, Michigan, did you file federal as well as state charges because you talk about the state legislatures? And did the supremacy clause come into play?
Great set of questions. Yeah, I was admitted in California and in District of Columbia, but my work on behalf of President Trump was all in the Supreme Court of the United States, and I'm a member of the bar of the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, I did advise the crew in Wisconsin, both from the state proceeding and the federal proceeding, but those were both petitions to the U.S. Supreme Court as well. And so I didn't need to pro-act I wasn't involved in any of the trial litigation. Yeah.
Great question, Phil. And Phil's a lawyer here on Long Island. Phil, what's the name of your podcast? All right, wonderful. There you go. Excellent. State your name, sir.
My name is Frank Chester from Comac.
Excellent.
Mr. Eastman, I have a question. First of all, I noticed that Mr. Dershowitz and Mr. Lessman, they both spoke about the problem with the election, and yet they both insisted that Biden won the election. How do you feel about that?
Well, you know, they can be wrong. They have a First Amendment right to be wrong. I was particularly enjoyed Professor Dershowitz's claim that except in Pennsylvania, well, Pennsylvania was decided by 80,000 votes. If Pennsylvania was not properly decided, then clearly Wisconsin at 20,500 and Georgia at 11,779 and Arizona at 10,500 or so should have been on that table as well. He never even looked at those. But look, I was happy to have them defend the election, but also now about the importance of electors meeting on the designated day. By the way, this is a funny story. When I gave a talk in Wisconsin recently, I blamed it all on Wisconsin. Back in 1856, there was a blizzard in Wisconsin, and the electors couldn't meet on the designated day. Now, two things very important happened after that in Congress, in the joint session of Congress. The first was that the acting president of the Senate decided to count those electoral votes. He didn't ask for permission from the House or the Senate because he didn't think that was their role. In fact, when they objected to what he did, he ruled their objections out of order and he gavelled the session closed. The Congress, the House and the Senate spent after the session had concluded debating whether that was legitimate or not, constitutional or not, and they never resolved it. Those motions to count or not count those ballots got tabled, and they've been tabled ever since. It's still an open question on constitutional law. If those on the designated day, and then subsequently they're determined to be the valid electors, whether they could be counted. And I'll tell you, if Trump's electors had not met on the designated day and the pending litigation had gone Trump's way, Democrats would have refused to count them and been objecting to counting them because they hadn't met and voted.
We'll be back with more. Dr. John Eastman, man, what they put him through is just incredible. Don't go anywhere. We got a great show ahead for you. And now a message from Birch Gold. As countries around the world move away from the U.S. dollar, get gold today for 5,000 years. Gold has withstood inflation, geopolitical turmoil, stock market crashes, and the great news is you can still get it. You can own gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account. Birch Gold makes it easy to convert your IRA or 401k into an IRA in precious metals. Just text the word America to 989898 to claim your free info kit on gold. 20 years experience in converting these IRAs and 401ks into precious metal IRAs. Birch Gold can help you today. Protect yourself today. Text the word America to 989898, an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of happy customers and countless 5-star reviews. Secure your future with gold today. Start today with your free info kit. There's no obligation. Text the word America to 989898 today.
Crisis, your number one need is food. But here's the good news. 4 Patriots is offering a special buy one get 2 free deal on its best-selling 72-hour survival food kits. Hurry, go to 4patriots.com now.
The FBI calls it house stealing, the latest scam where a cyber thief transfers the title of your home out of your name and steals your hard-earned equity.
It's roughly 60 to 90 days for that person to even figure out that they're the victim of this crime. You start getting foreclosure notices and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
Unfortunately, it's on you to protect yourself. You might already be a victim. Check your title status now at HomeTitleLock.com.
This special Passover holy day is of urgent importance. This is our last chance to help save thousands of Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union today.
She is a Holocaust survivor who has seen far more evil than any human being should endure. Have you eaten this morning?
I ate the carrot, and this is what she ate in 2 days. Please pray for me.
We bring that still, soft voice of God to these abandoned Holocaust survivors.
This Passover, you will receive God's blessing when you bless these children of Israel. Your urgently needed gift of only $25 will help rush a food box packed full of life-saving essentials to feed an elderly Jewish person struggling to survive.
Vavara is 89 years old and she is completely blind and alone.
I am blind, but I am alive, and I would eat matzah again. Thank you. Perhaps you could tell my story. I'm sure there are good people in the world that would understand. I face hunger again.
When Nina saw the food box that Christians provided,
You will not be hungry again.
she burst into tears.
This is what God wants from us. Just feed the hungry.
Please don't delay. Call, scan, or go online now to help rush one survival food box to a Holocaust survivor who is suffering and in desperate need.
Kevin paid off over $12,000 in credit card debt with the help of Consolidated Credit. They cut his interest rates and lowered his payments so he could pay off his debt fast. Call 800-596-8062 for a free consultation.
Welcome back. You're watching Breaking Point on Real America's Voice News. Thank you for joining the RAV family. And just remember, the Department of Education's only been around since 1979, so it's really no big deal if we got rid of it. I mean, what did we do for 200 years before that, right? People back in 1915, 1920, students knew more than they do now. They were better well-read. They were better at math. So Department of Education is failing. And now 21 states attorneys general, led by New York's AG Letitia James, filing a lawsuit calling the terminations illegal and unconstitutional. But let's reform it. Let's cut out the bureaucracy. I have great questions from the audience ahead from my sit down with John Eastman at the America First Warehouse. Check it out. I spent a lot of time on the campaign trail in Wisconsin and Michigan. A little bit of a civil war going on in Michigan and the GOP. Wisconsin, the same thing. What do you feel about Robin Voss, leading the House over there? And, he survived 2 recall efforts. Do you think they did enough to investigate anything?
Not remotely. And there was a committee in the Wisconsin legislature that investigated this, and then appointed Justice Michael Gableman to do an investigation. And when Gableman started turning up illegality that affected the outcome of the election, Robin Voss fired him instead of having that become public.
I had people come up to me in Wisconsin at Trump rallies telling me that one guy said who was in an adult home, and she wound up voting for Joe Biden, and he doesn't know how that happened.
Yeah, no, we talk about it, and Gableman exposed the nursing home scandal.
Yeah.
But by the way, that begins with an illegality, and I spent most of my time focusing not on what we could prove for fraud, but what we could see was illegal. And the Secretary of the State of Wisconsin ordered that the mandatory bipartisan teams going into nursing homes would not be allowed into nursing homes, pretext of COVID. Now, the fish tank cleaners were still allowed to go into the nursing homes, but not the people to make sure we didn't have any fish tank garbage going on in the voting. And as I say in the film, the turnout rates went from 25% to nearly 100%.
Wow.
And we know people committed fraud, not just because of that, but because a lot of the ballots were in the same handwriting as Justice Gableman discovered in his investigation. And all of that was buried under the rug, and nobody wanted to talk about it.
How many votes do you think that accounted for?
Gableman thinks that total, that and a couple of other issues may have been over 200,000 votes, and the tally in Michigan was just 20,000.
Only lost by
20,500. Right? There was another thing they did called they had drop boxes that the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled were illegal after the fact. And then after a judicial election, it changed the partisan makeup of the election. Then they unruled it, undid the ruling of illegality, very partisan decision. But they also did what they called human drop boxes. They created this Democracy in the Park program, and they ran it in heavy Democrat areas in Madison, where the University of Wisconsin is, heavily Democrat. The evidence that this was done in conjunction with the Biden campaign is linked. Within minutes of them announcing that they were going to do this, Joe Biden is out on the air on pre-recorded public service messages, encouraging people to get out to the Democracy in the Park things and vote. And they deputized scores of people to run this operation. It was a ballot harvesting operation in heavy Democrat strongholds, run by, in all likelihood, Biden campaign volunteers who were deputized by the Democrat county clerk in in that county. It's an outrage.
Truly incredible. Madison is like communist order. So we have a great friend to the America First Warehouse. Tell us your name, sir.
My name is Peter Peruzzi. And Dr. Eastman, I want to thank you for being such a patriot, putting so much of your life in jeopardy and your family in jeopardy. I just want to say that I've done about 10,000 hours myself as an individual, and I have a library full of documents of evidence, the same evidence you may have. But since the courts in 60 cases will not look at the evidence, there's no proof, because the court decides proof. It would be one of the best TV programs ever produced and a very lucrative program called The People's Court. And put the evidence that you have, that I have, that some of the international people have, in a court. Put 3 radical left-wing people there, put 3 Republicans there, and decide if our evidence is valid. And if it's valid, rectify the fact that we can't go on in this country with an election from 2020 that's still not verified. You can't do it. And the people that are very smug today about that election, you can forget about it, they're not helping the country at all. What do you think of that idea?
I think it's a great idea.
I think the money.
Thank you, Peter.
I've been thinking about interviewing all of the eyewitnesses that signed sworn affidavits in Wisconsin and Michigan and Georgia and elsewhere and putting them up on my Substack. The one difficulty I have and why I haven't done it so far is I'm a criminal proceeding in Georgia not to talk to any of the witnesses about the Georgia facts. And the facts laid out in Georgia is the nationwide RICO racketeering enterprise. So I can't do it until that case is dismissed and I'm free of that bond condition. But I think taking it to the next level and doing a people's court to actually look at the evidence and have it decided, I think it's a fabulous idea.
Dr. Eastman, let's move on to Michigan. Experienced the same thing in Michigan. You got Chinese-owned EV battery plants. You got a Republican legislature giving money out with Whitmer, Democratic governor. And so the Republican Party really wasn't MAGA over there to a large degree. So I wanted to ask you, one of the most riveting things I ever saw was one of Giuliani's, I think, witnesses who signed an affidavit. She came here from India because of all the corruption in the elections. And she came here. She was one of the 50th fastest businesses growing in the United States. She was the owner of. She volunteered for the Republican Party to be an observer, was marched out of there along with everyone else, some of them in cuffs. But our testimony for the state legislature was so riveting. I was watching it. Why didn't the Michigan House act?
People asked me, if you were right, Eastman, then these Republican legislatures would have done something about it. And I tell them, you have to distinguish between pro-Trump Republicans and anti-Trump Republicans. And when you add the anti-Trump Republicans in those legislatures to the Democrats, these were not They did not want to see Trump win. They were telling their constituents, oh, I wish we could do something about this. And when I pointed out to them that they could do something about it, they all ran for the hills. The last thing they wanted was Vice President Pence to send us back to them because they were telling their constituents, oh, I wish we could have done something. This is terrible what happened, but our hands are tied. We can't do anything. And the political pressure that it would brought to bear on them by their constituents, that they've been saying, we agree with you. This was a terrible election. We should have done something about it, but we had no power. If we recognized that they had the power, their bluff would have been called. And that's why they were so hostile. They didn't want this done. But I've got letters from the leadership of these legislatures telling Vice President Pence the election was illegally certified and asking for a little bit of time to assess the impact. Why did we need to wait till that first week of January to do that? Because their governors were to call during the whole month of December when they could have looked at this in a more reasonable way. And so they said, we're now back in regular session. We don't need the governor's permission to come meet. Yeah. Give us a week or 10 days to assess the impact of the illegality, and we'll report back to you. And if honestly we determine that Biden won, then that'll be important too. Because then the Republicans will know we looked at this stuff instead of hiding it under the rug, and that sore on our body politic will be able to heal. We never got that as an American people, and I don't know about you, but I think we deserved it.
Wow. You know, getting back to the Department of Education, the left is like, oh, kids are going to go without their lunch, their free lunch and meals, and students with disabilities won't get their therapy, if occupational and physical therapy, and the summer programs are going to be cut for kids. I don't think so. Let's see where this goes. I think Trump has the best interest in mind for Americans, and we'll be right back. And now a message from Switch to USA. We are so honored to have with us on the show the great Maria Lynn from switch2usa.com. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you, David. I'm so excited to be here. And how are you today?
I am wonderful. I'm wonderful. But you have great products made on American soil by American factory workers. You're a longtime supporter of Real America's Voice News and Breaking Point. Tell us what you got going on.
Thank you. So first of all, the RAV shoppers are amazing, and we love reaching out to everybody. We have the oldest 40-year-old American manufacturer that's right here on U.S. soil with U.S. factory workers making all personal essentials and household essentials. Everything is non-toxic, so there's no formaldehyde and there's no immune disruptors in there. There's 2 programs, actually 3 programs. There's a wellness side of our program. There's a prime beef side to our program, and everything is vertically integrated on both. And then you could pick and choose if you'd like an additional savings on your prime beef, the beef and wellness. We have so many things going on. We have home alarm systems, but we won't even get into that right now. I just wanted to tell everybody this is an American patriot factory, so we love having everybody come.
All right, we have 30 seconds. Tell our viewers how they can get online and join you. Switch2usa.com.
Please come to our website, switch2usa.com. Looks like this. And when you do get there, please leave me your name, your email address, and a phone number, maybe a good time to call you. And then myself and my family, will reach back out to you. We'll offer you all the different subscriptions. You decide if you want to join us, and we'd love to have you. All
right. We love you back, Maria Lynn. Everybody go buy American, and we'll see you real soon.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Here at Allegiance, we feel like American flags should be made in America.
When we started Allegiance, we were shocked to learn how many American flags were actually being made overseas.
Every flag we make is proudly crafted in the USA with superior materials.
Join us in our mission to keep the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to order your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
How many times have you tried to clean a stubborn mess but end up with no success? What you need is the all-new waterproof Ruby Horsepower, the new cordless and rechargeable power scrubber that cleans faster and easier, guaranteed. Watch, baked on oven grease is no match. It easily blasts away dirt and grime in no time. The power comes from our rotating brushes spinning at 350 RPM. The incredible torque fights calcium, soap, mildew, mold, and more. Forget harsh chemicals. With just plain water, Horsepower can clean bathroom tiles and tubs back to their original shine and luster. It's a game changer in the kitchen, where it busts through caked-on crud. Take it outside and tackle tough tasks with ease. How strong is Horsepower? We took this distressed 100-year-old antique and restored it to like new with Horsepower. Amazing! Get your Ruby Horsepower scrubber today with bonus scouring sponge for just $39.99. Save on buying batteries. It's powered with the latest rechargeable technology. But wait, you'll also get this stainless steel brush to make range hoods and gas stoves look brand new again. Yours free. And we're not done. You'll get this Smart Flex cone brush that fits perfectly into corners, tiny crevices on toilets and tiles, or hard to reach shower door rails. Yours yours free. And to top it off, we'll include this microfiber cloth to clean delicate surfaces and polish cars sparkling clean. It's also free. Great news! Horsepower is now in stock and ready to ship, but due to high demand, there is a strict limit of 2 per order. Order now.
Call 1-800-953-8622. That's 1-800-953-8622 or visit horsepowerscrubber.com. So call 1-800-953-8622 now.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with Rice Robot, the 1, 2, 3 rice cooker. Watch, 1 add the white cup for rice, 2 add the blue cup for water, 3 click it and let Rice Robot perfectly cook it.
The secret is perfect cook technology for even cooking. Then Rice Robot senses when it's done, auto stops and keeps it warm to serve.
It won't burn, overcook or undercook, guaranteed.
Get the complete Rice Robot cooking system, all for just $39.99. Order now.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining the Rav family. You're watching Breaking Point. And later in the show, I have Michael McCormick, former Biden stenographer. He's got all the juicy secrets from his time serving in the Biden administration, flying around on Air Force One and Air Force Two. You're not going to want to miss that. And you know what? I got more questions from the audience from the America First warehouse when I sat down with John Eastman last week. Watch this.
My name is Barbara Curry. I'm from Oyster Bay. I do believe, and I'm sure all of us do, that Vice President Pence dropped the ball and didn't do his due diligence. From what our friends seen on the local level, County Board of Elections don't have any process in place to make sure that the Voter Registration Act is complied with and followed. And then, but going forward, I'm sure you'll be okay. And you're standing up for the truth, so you can sleep at night. And at the end of the day, what do we do with the judiciary? How is that able to be reformed? Do you see any of that coming forward with any development that you can share with us?
So a couple of things there, and you're right. I think what we're seeing now is in large measure vindication of the positions I was taking. But that doesn't matter to me. I'm a very staunch Catholic, and I know we've already won the battle. And there's nothing they can do on this earth to me that will get me off of fighting for the truth. That's important, number one. Second is we inherited from our founders and our grandparents, and who fought for freedom in this country. We inherited the greatest, most free, most prosperous nation the world has ever seen. I've got kids and I've now got grandkids. And I'm not willing to sit by while we lose that inheritance and hand something off to them that is less than what we got. And so that's the other reason I fight. And I'll fight with the judiciary too. I mean, I call them out. Most lawyers are afraid to talk about judges when they're acting improperly. I have long been an advocate for restoring the principle our founders gave her. The judiciary is supposed to be an independent branch to protect individual rights. There's even against mobs, even against public opinion. They're supposed to protect our individual rights. We want them independent, but we don't want them so independent that they have power that they can abuse. And our founders put in the Constitution 2 checks on the judiciary. The first is that they have to be nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. That's the front end check. The back end check is they're only there for good behavior. They can be impeached. And the founders fully thought that impeachment for bad behavior on the court would be an important check on a wayward judiciary. We somehow developed the notion early in our history that you should never impeach a judge, no matter how egregiously wrong their decisions from the bench are. The founders would have thought that that's more important to impeach them for violating their oath of office than any off-bench criminal conduct. That's minor compared to a breach of their duty. And I'd like to see a restoration of that impeachment power against judges when they're abusing their office. As quite frankly, I think a lot of the judges blocking the executive branch actions right now by President Trump, they're abusing their office. They're interfering with the exercise of the president's constitutional authority to direct the executive branch. and they're issuing nationwide, uniform, universal injunctions to basically second guess the president in the exercise of his powers. The example I like to give, Congress has the power of the purse, the appropriation power. Suppose in 1944, Congress had passed an appropriation Roosevelt that tax dollars to land our troops at Normandy instead of Dunkirk. And he lands them at Normandy anyway, or he issues an order to the military to land at Normandy. And somebody files a suit. And some judge issues an injunction against the president because he's violating that Appropriation Act. What nonsense. The act was an intrusion on the president's power as commander-in-chief, and the judicial injunction is a double intrusion on the power as commander-in-chief. And we need to think about the executive branch in the way the founders thought, that the president is the executive. Nobody else is. No bureaucrat at U.S. aid is the exclusive power. The Article 2 says the executive power is vested in the president. Nobody else. Everybody else only has executive power derivative from him. And the notion that these bureaucrats run the show and the president's supposed to take their direction from him rather than the other way around, because what that really means is not only is the president not in charge, but we who elect the president are not in charge. And we're no longer we the people, we the sovereign people. That's what's going on with these judicial injunctions. And I think the 4D game of chess that President Trump is playing is finally going to put that abuse of the judicial office back in place, back in check, and restore separation of powers the way they should be.
John, are you referring also to the response by the courts to Trump's executive orders?
I am. The most egregious one was the injunction telling the newly confirmed Secretary of the Treasury he couldn't look at Treasury Department data because he wasn't authorized. Only the people that work for him were authorized. I mean, this is the deep state upside down. You know, when Trump's first term, there were a couple of important stories in the New York Times. He was not taking direction from the intelligence community. Remember that? I'm sorry, they work for him, not the other way around. Or then when he wanted to put in his own guy as acting attorney general after Bill Barr left, they thought that was an outrage. I'm sorry, he's the guy we elect. All right? It's not the deep state. It's not the intelligence community. It's not all these little bureaucrats running around thinking they run the show. The only power they have comes from him. And if he directs them not to exercise a power in a certain way, then that's their job. And if they're not willing to do it, then he's right to fire them. And that's what we're seeing, and that's the confrontation that I think we're going to have over the next 4 years.
Going to come to a head maybe, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we have time for one more question. What's your name, sir?
Say where you're from and be like. Frank Prococo. I am from Dix Hills, New York, and I have a two-part question. The first part is, are there any lawsuits still pending from the 2020 election where the actual evidence can be presented? And the second part is, what, if anything, can be done at the federal level to make sure that mail-in ballots don't go out to ineligible addresses?
Great two-part question. I'll take them both up. So there's a case down in Georgia. There are two cases actually still pending where the evidence is being considered. One of them is called Favorito versus Raffensperger down in Georgia. Garland Favorito is the head of a nonpartisan organization called Voter GA, and he actually, I think this particular judge didn't get the memo that we're not supposed to look at this, but he was authorized in his discovery to do a forensic audit of some of the machines down in Georgia. It only lasted a week before the judge withdrew the order. But in that week, they discovered over 5,000 ballots that had been replicated in the system and double counted. 5,000 ballots on one machine over 1 week in a state where the margin was 11,779. So that case is still pending, and they're just uncovering some amazing stuff. The other case, and it's why I spent $750,000 fighting the California bar thing. They said, you have no evidence. I said, the evidence. And you're going to have to listen to my evidence. You may ignore it, but in that California bar proceeding. 10 weeks of witnesses and documents and evidence demonstrating all the illegalities that occurred. And that will be there for scholars and historians to look at for years to come. And I thought it was important. I could have just thrown in the towel. I'm close to retirement. I don't need that bar license. But telling a lie, and I was going to expose it. And that's what we did.
Incredible. Audience. John, the audience, we're always so impressed about their knowledge, right? And great questions tonight. And we want to wrap up tonight with the one and only, the purveyor, the owner, the founder of the America First Warehouse, along with his incredible family and his great crew here. Joe the Box, what's cooking?
I can only tell you that I am flabbergasted and in awe of John Eastman. Would you sign my document before you leave tonight?
I will do that. Oh, my God. By the way, you should get somebody did a Batman edition of the mugshots down at Georgia. I'm Dr. Freeze. Rudy is the Penguin. We had a great time with that. Yeah, I'll sign that. That'd be great.
That's awesome. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and thank you, Joe, for putting this on at the America First Warehouse. Go to the AmericaFirstWarehouse.com for more information. And also, John, you've faced tremendous legal battles, and it's probably going to go on for some time. And you have a GoFundMe site. Tell our audience where they can get involved, get behind you, because your message is their message. So
thanks very much. Yeah. And two things. One, those in the audience today were able to see the film. If you weren't able to see it, it's still available for free streaming at eastmandilemma.com. And can see. If you want to help me with the legal fees, givesendgo.com/Eastman. You can send donations there. You can also send prayers there. And my wife and I read them. They're heartwarming. And we also use that as a blog to post updates. When people write articles describing what we're going through and really get an understanding of what's happening, we post those up there so you can become armed with the evidence and the information. GiveSendGo.com/Eastman.
When it comes to Mahmoud Khalil from Columbia University, you have to remember, when you're here on a visa or a green card, you have to respect the rules about those terms you agreed to when you were granted access to be here in the United States. It's not the same as being a citizen. If you have cause for national security concern regarding the individual, and as Carolyn Leavitt said, Marco Rubio had every right to revoke the visa or green card of any individual adversarial to the foreign policy and national security interest of the United States, or it can be deemed as a potential threat. You don't have to actually go out and assault somebody and commit a crime to be deported. So that's something to keep in mind. When I come back, I got more great stuff for you. Michael McCormick, former Biden administration official.
Hello, this is Mike Huckabee. President Trump said he wants to take back the White House and teach our kids to love our country. That's why my team created the Kids Guide to President Trump. It'll teach your kids all about President Trump's accomplishments and his vision for America. And right now, I want to give it to you for free as part of this free gift bundle.
Order your free Kids Guide to President Trump, get a free bonus guide, and a free membership to AMAC featuring dozens of money-saving benefits at kidsneedtrump.com. That's kidsneedtrump.com.
It's the stackable savings sale at Cabinets to Go.
Come in today for cabinets, countertops, accessories, installation, and more. And start enjoying your dream kitchen for as little as $143 per month. Don't wait. The stackable savings sale ends soon.
Cabinets to Go. Wow for less.
Allegiance Flag Supply believes American flags should be made in America.
Our symbol of freedom made outside our borders, that did not sit right.
Join us in our mission to keep the American flag truly American. Don't settle for flags made elsewhere.
Every flag is proudly crafted in the USA with superior materials.
Visit showallegiance.com to order your high-quality, made-in-America flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
I'm Richard Karn, and I love my hose. It ain't those old hoses. This is my hose. The new Pocket Hose Copper Bullet, now infused with real copper, so your water is always clean and lead-free. Just turn on the water and watch your hose grow and grow. And when you turn off the water, away it goes. Our new inner tube uses 3 layers of high-strength latex on the inside. Then it's wrapped in a new polymer filament jacket, 3 times stronger than the other hoses. But my favorite part of our new hose build? The oversized, easy-to-grip fittings. Get the super light 25-foot pocket hose copper bullet today for only $29.99. But wait, call now and get our copper spray nozzle with our exclusive thumb drive free. This is an exclusive release of our newest pocket hose. Order now.
Call 1-800-449-7172. That's 1-800-449-7172. Or visit copperbullethose.com. Order now.
Are you having trouble hearing your TV or listening to conversations in loud spaces? Then it might be time to consider Nano hearing aids. Nanos are FDA-registered OTC hearing aids. Don't be fooled by overpriced hearing aids. Prescription hearing aids could cost $3,000 or more. Nano hearing aids are now offering $100 off through this special TV offer. Call now and get 2 CIC rechargeable hearing aids for only $297. And if you're not happy, return them for a full refund.
Attention homeowners. Are you behind on your mortgage payments? Is the bank threatening to take your home? Is your home worth less than you owe? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you need to call this number right now.
Call 800-714-8615.
Welcome back. You're watching Breaking Point on Real America's Voice News. I'm honored to have with us right now Michael McCormick. You've seen him on the War Room. We have some updated information coming from him today. He's the former Biden stenographer and the author of An Almost Insurmountable Evil. Michael McCormick, welcome to the show.
Thanks, David. It's good to be on with you.
Great to finally meet you. You've got an incredible story, and you traveled on Air Force One and Air Force Two for years and had unprecedented West Wing access. Tell us about what you did in the Biden administration and what's current right now.
Well, what's current right now is, as we're watching this meltdown with Democrats over the great deal that President Trump was making with the Ukrainians. I traveled to Ukraine with Joe Biden 10 years ago, 2014, and watched him commit a crime on Air Force Two. Actually, it was Jake Sullivan who committed the crime on Joe Biden's behalf. I talked about it in my book, The Case to Impeach and Imprison Joe Biden, right there. And what happened was we were flying into Ukraine right as Joe Biden was bringing assistance to Ukraine. This is April 2014. And Jake Sullivan came to the back of the plane where I, as a stenographer, was sitting with the press. And my job was to record what he said to the press. But he was speaking as an anonymous government official. So he had this opportunity to talk to the press on background, is what they call it. One of the press asked him, what kind of energy or assistance are you bringing to Ukraine? And he said 4 things. 2 of them directly benefited Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, because Hunter Biden was already secretly on the board of Burisma Holdings, a Ukrainian natural gas company, and he had met with Joe Biden just days before. And I know that because I've been through the Hunter Biden laptop, and that's where the emails are of them setting up this kickback scheme that Hunter and Joe did. So having Jake Sullivan come back to the press and talk to him like that is a crime. It's malfeasance. And the fact that Jake Sullivan was part of that crime, telling them about it, is conspiracy. And that conspiracy went all the way into the White House when Jake Sullivan was Joe Biden's national security advisor, when Joe Biden was president, because they covered it up. They never talked about it. So I've sent information in the FBI about this. And just last week, I sent information into U.S. Attorney Ed Martin to say, look, there's a case out there and this has to be investigated. Will you please investigate it?
So you filed the new complaint and you haven't heard anything, right?
That's right. 2 years ago, I sent something in the FBI. I never heard back. I got in touch with David Weiss, who was the special counsel investigating Hunter Biden. And I said, David Weiss, I have information for you. They never got back to me. So now there's a new team in the Department of Justice. And we got Ed Martin as a U.S. attorney in D.C. hopefully he can get in touch with me and say, yeah, let's have you come down and talk in front of a grand jury. Because what happens is when I get in front of a grand jury and I testify that I saw this happen, and the fact is what I'm testifying is I know it's Jake Sullivan. The transcript says it's a senior administration official. He thought he was being anonymous, but I know who it was. That becomes evidence, and that's the evidence that can lead to a conviction. And Jake Sullivan's wife is the New Hampshire congresswoman, and she would be, I would think, have to answer questions to her constituents. Are you helping your husband cover up this crime? What do you know about Jake Sullivan's crimes while he was a national security advisor? You were married to him then.
Wow. It's pretty exceptional. And a U.S. Senator, Democrat, isn't running again in New Hampshire next year. It could swing the Congress and the Senate even further to the right, if something ever came of that. But I'm interested in, what was your specific role? I mean, you were the witness to so many things and you documented evidence, but by nature of your job, right? Tell us what you did for the Biden administration.
Well, so in my latest book, An Almost Insurmountable Evil, one of the things I did is I traveled with Joe Biden to Honduras in 2012. Well, it turns out he was there to set up a drug deal with cartel-affiliated Honduran government officials. And that became, that plot thickened into White House officials through a very bad guy named Cardinal Theodore McCarrick. They started to use the Vatican to transit drugs and people into the United States illegally. And so that was basically in 2013, 2014, when Pope Francis was installed. I think he was installed with this guy McCarrick's help. And I think McCarrick was a CIA guy. He was an operative. And they put Pope Francis in. Pope Francis started telling everybody, hey, we got to let these refugees come across the border. Well, that was part of a drug cartel operation that Biden had set up.
Okay.
That's what I have in my book.
So I'm Catholic, but I'm not a fan of a lot of stuff that Catholic Charities has done. One of the 7 or 8 or 9 NGOs that were helping, smuggle people through the Darien Gap and up through Central America, like our own Ben Berquam's been exposing for years, and giving girls, birth control and pregnancy kits or whatever they were doing, a rape kit, but are you saying that the Catholic Church was consciously involved in drug running through Central America?
That's what I say in the book. Yes, and I'm a Catholic too. I pray a rosary every day or I go to church, either one of the two, for about a month now. But I've been going to church every week for a year. I got back into the church. And part of what happened was, once I got back in, I was listening to Alex Jones, and he was talking about this sense of overwhelming evil. And I thought to myself, what's the most evil thing I remember from my time in the White House? And it was this relationship between Joe Biden and Cardinal Theodore McCarrick. Because McCarrick turned out to be a terrible and evil man, rapist of altar boys and seminarians. So looking back on what he did with Joe Biden, this came to light. McCarrick was used. He had meetings several times in the White House with then Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough, White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough, in 2013. And then he went over to the Vatican and helped influence the conclave that elected Bergoglio into Pope Francis. Bergoglio was the Archbishop of Buenos Aires. In the 70s, the CIA had an operation in Argentina called Operation Condor. What they did was they backed the right-wing dictatorship. Well, Bergoglio, as a priest, was involved with that dictatorship. It's always been a black mark on his record. So to me, he had an affiliation with the CIA going back to his priesthood in the 70s. And I cover that. I don't cover that in the book, the Bergoglio priesthood involvement with Operation Condor, but it's in the movie The Two Popes. They talk about it. And so it's documented that he did this. And so you have CIA involvement with Bergoglio in Argentina. And you have, I think the CIA pushed McCarrick into helping him become the Pope. And from then on, he became basically a foreign policy tool of Barack Obama.
I'm no fan of Pope Francis, I got to tell you. I think he's a Marxist, and I went to Catholic school, and, there was like liberation theology going on, and, we saw the leftist leanings. But, what you're saying is very explosive. And, what kind of evidence can you bring forth that the church itself was actively involved in whether drug running? I get the humanitarian crisis, and I get by default they're participating in the drug trade because they're letting illegals come up, and providing help and assistance to them. But what kind of evidence do you have that can make that connection specifically about drugs?
So this guy McCormick was the Archbishop of Washington, and he was well known to politicians, especially Democrats. He was well known to Biden. From 2009 on, he started going into the White House regularly, meeting with Dennis McDonough.
Yeah.
So what happened was, in October of 2012, McCormick and McDonough were together at a speech that McDonough gave at Catholic University. A month later, McCormick went to Argentina. And this is in the report the Vatican put out on Theodore McCormick after he was exposed as a rapist. Well, he went to Argentina, and they didn't say who he visited. And then a little bit later than that, December 2012, so this is just 6 weeks before Pope Benedict retired or resigned, McCormick goes back to Argentina. So why did he go to Argentina twice in the months before Pope Benedict resigned? And then he's in the conclave. As soon as Pope Benedict retires, he's there and ready to go and influencing the cardinals. Before that, he'd been traveling around the world for the State Department, and he was passing out money. And people always, his skill was, the reason he got so popular was fundraising. Who was giving him the money to pass out to all these cardinals and bishops around the world that later voted for Pope Francis?
Right.
I think it was, they said it was wealthy Catholics. I think it was the CIA.
So, Michael, we have to go. Everybody, go out and read An Almost Insurmountable Evil, and you can decide for yourself here. But I know you've been a witness to history, and I hope you get a response from David Weiss or, the people in Washington about your latest complaint. So we'll be in touch, and keep us apprised of the latest, okay?
Great. Thanks, David.
Thank you so much, Michael. Have a great one. Everybody, thank you for watching Breaking Point. I'm David Zere. I really appreciate you joining the Rav family and watching with us. We are in touch with real Americans, real American voices out there, and we've got a great show next week ahead, and the news cycle is just explosive, so stay tuned.
When a cyber thief transfers the title of your home out of your name, it's a race against time to stop the theft of your hard-earned equity.
Many people don't know this has happened until long after it's done.
You as the homeowner think you still own a house. 3 months later, you start getting foreclosure notices, and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
So when's the last time you checked on the title to your home? Find out if you're already a victim at HomeTitleLock.com.
This is our last chance to help save thousands of Holocaust survivors who are suffering in the former Soviet Union today. The needs that these forgotten Jews have are something beyond anything you can imagine.
Have you eaten this morning?
I ate the carrot, so I ate half of it yesterday, and I had it today for breakfast. And this is what she ate in 2 days, 1 carrot. Please pray for me.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews began this ministry to help elderly Jews living in horrible poverty around the world. We urgently need your gift of $25 now to help provide 1 survival food box with all of the foods they critically need for their diet for 1 month.